Well, hello YouTube, this is RL coming to you again from my channel, and welcome back to another episode of Retro... No, wait, this is not actually a Retro Life review. I have a new series called RL Reviews Modern. I know, it's kind of a contradiction of terms, but my channel is still called A Side of RL, which is there's many sides of me. That's why I wanted to add my love of movies to my channel, which you probably have seen in some of my very past content on this channel. So I like to try to bring some of those elements back to my channel, but I'm still focusing on the Retro Life content because it is a Retro Life channel and it will always be a Retro Life channel. Alright, so that's out of the way. So I'm going to be reviewing Wonder Woman 1984. So before I start, I'm just going to introduce to you how I rate these movies, reviews. So first off is going to be visuals, music, acting, script, story, entertainment, and replay value. So let's get started with visuals first. So the movie is visually beautiful. It takes place in the 1980s, 1984 to be exact. The look of the mall in the beginning of the movie looks obviously from that time period. Lots of colors and brightness to it. It just obviously screams 1980s. So the visuals throughout the movie are very beautiful to look at. The colors are vibrant. There's nothing about this movie that looks bad. It's a very bright movie, kind of the opposite of Wonder Woman 2017, where it was a lot darker movie at times, and then of course it took place in World War I. It wasn't a colorful era. So the movie is very different in the visual department, but I like the visuals in this movie. It is a beautiful looking movie, so I will give the visuals not a retro, I was gonna say retro love. I'm gonna give it a modern love. My first rating is visuals. It's a modern love. Alright, so moving on to music. So the music in this movie was very enjoyable. I mean, it's Hans Zimmerman. He's known for making superhero movies. He did Man of Steel. I believe he did Christopher Nolan Batman. So he's done a lot of music for superhero movies. This score didn't do anything unique. It's not something that I noticed throughout the movie. It's not mind-blowingly great. I'm not going to listen to it on my iPod. Oh my god, I'm so retro. I'm not listening to music on Spotify or all the cool kids ways of listening to music these days, but that's okay. I like my old school clearly, but the music, I will give that a retro double like. I said retro, a modern double like. Man, it's gonna take me a while to get used to this modern section of my channel. You're a retro site, how are you doing modern? But hey, Side of RL, it gives me that freedom. Alright, so moving on to acting. I thought the acting in this movie was really spot on. Gal Gadot, don't know how to pronounce her name. There's different takes. I really liked her in this movie. She was a lot better in this movie than the first movie, even though I thought she was amazing in the first movie. She had a lot of beats. There were a lot of emotional beats that she pulled off amazingly well. The script, we'll get to that next. But the acting in this movie, Chris Pine and Gal Gadot were amazing together. They have such amazing chemistry that the acting between the two really made this movie so much better, even with all its flaws, because there are a lot of flaws, and I will bring that up. I will definitely go into that. It's not a perfect movie. No movie is, but this movie is. It's got a lot of faults. Anyway, so the acting was excellent. The villains were a lot better in this movie, I felt, than in the first movie. That definitely was an improvement. Maxwell Lord had a very complex and deep story arc. He was a little campy. There was a lot of camp elements to him in this movie, but it was very emotional with with his connection with his son that really grounded him. It could have been explored a little more, but I mean, they really went into depth in the end of the movie about how he was formed as a character and how his father and how he was treated and bullied and really affected him in wanting to have that power and wanting to be not looked upon as a loser. So that drove his character to be very, very obsessed with power. And Pedro Pascal was excellent portraying that character. And Kristen Wiig, I feel her character of Cheetah was also handled very well. I mean, other than some CGI issues, I still think the character was quite interesting and fascinating. In the beginning of the movie, she was, kind of quirky, funny, and had a great heart. Obviously had a lot of insecurities and a lot of, I wouldn't say resentment, because she didn't come off like she was angry with the world, but she was jealous and wanted a little more attention that she wasn't getting, because she was a bit of that, geeky character that not a lot of people respected and saw as a person, and she was kind of blended into the background, even though she was a very funny character and had a quirky sense of humor, which I like, because I'm a quirky guy, so I really like that. The transformation into Cheetah was, I think, very subtle and actually very well executed. I really feel that she had an interesting arc and actually was believable as a character, and you saw how the humanity left her as her wish came true, how the artifact that she wished, well, everyone was wishing upon in this movie, took away who she was as a person. Her soul was lost to become more like Wonder Woman. So all the acting was amazing in this movie, so I'm going to give it a modern love, because yes, the acting was just excellent. Alright, so moving on to the script. I did not like the script completely. Obviously there were elements of the script that I loved. I just felt it wasn't tight enough. It was very loosey-goosey in the beginning. I felt that it was very, very, very slow. It took a very long time for me to get into this movie. At least an hour of this movie felt that it wasn't really moving at a pace that I feel it needed to move. They were setting up everything, but the script was just so bad in the beginning. The opening segment of the Olympics in Mascara, the island, was visually beautiful. The stadium and everything went on way too long, in my opinion. They really could have cut that in half. Obviously, there was a really strong message there for Diana, who was cheating to get where she wanted to win so badly that she cheated, and she needed to learn that lesson. It was a really nice lesson. It was very important to the movie. It just needed to be cut in half. A lot of this movie needed to be cut out. I really feel this movie did not need to be 2.5 hours. It just needed to be tighter. If this movie was an hour and 40 minutes, I think I would have enjoyed it way more than I did. So I'm going to give the script a modern half-like. It's not a love by any means. It's not a love. There's a lot to love in the script, actually, but because it wasn't tight enough and because it went on way too long in the beginning, the first act, and parts of the second act, there was hardly any action in this movie for the first hour plus, and that's not acceptable in a Wonder Woman movie. But the action was actually great when it did happen. We didn't get to see Wonder Woman at all in the first 2 acts. An hour plus in, I was saying, where's Wonder Woman? I mean, where's the costume? We see Gal Gadot, we see Diana, she's in the whole movie, but we didn't see, we saw her in the beginning, obviously, the mall. So the script is a retro half-like. Alright, so moving on to the story. So the story was very campy. It was a campy plot. It took place in 1984, so I'm sure that's why they wanted it to be more campy than the first Wonder Woman movie, which wasn't campy at all, really. It was a very serious movie with humor in it, but this movie was quite campy. The influence, obviously, of Superman, the movie, and Superman 2, the Donner movies, there was a lot of things they took from that. There's a lot of inspiration. She did that in the first movie, too. There was a scene where Diana saves Steve Trevor by blocking the bullets, and that's a scene right out of Superman the movie where Clark Kent catches a bullet and saves Lois Lane. There was a lot of stuff in this movie that was very over the top and really, in my opinion, pushed the envelope in the sense that really it made you take a big leap of acceptance to what was going on, and I felt the first hour really didn't explain it enough. There was this artifact that grants you wishes, and it's a stone, and they really don't really explain right away what it is, because there was a moment where they were talking about it, the character Cheetah discussing with Diana that it might be a fake. So I kind of thought in the beginning this is a cheesy replica fake of something that was an artifact at one point, and I'm like, why do people care about this artifact that's not even real? So I don't feel there was a lot of explanation going on. There wasn't a script. As I said, the script wasn't tight, and the story, the plot really suffered from that. There was a lot of stuff that just didn't work in the beginning of the script. The plot didn't work because it was just hokey and silly, and it just didn't. Silly is fine, but it didn't explain itself enough. It took me half the movie for me really to understand the significance of this artifact and why Maxwell Lord wanted it. I don't know how Maxwell Lord even knew of this artifact. There was a lot of suspension of disbelief that he wanted us to experience. That's the problem with this movie. So the story gets a modern like. I like it better than the script, even though the script and plot go hand in hand. But because a lot of elements are enjoyable in this movie, and when it finally hits its stride, it actually is a good movie. It's just they should have cut a lot of the fat. Alright, so moving on to entertainment. Oh, it's all over the place. The entertainment suffered. I would say the first hour and a half of this movie, I was really bored. I was really thinking to myself, I don't like it as much as the first movie. I don't know why it's taking so long to get to the point, to really start to get going. It's an action movie. It's not just a love story. It's not just a Wonder Woman movie. It has to have action. There was not enough action in the first part of this movie. Not saying it didn't have. It did, the mall sequence. But for a long time after the mall sequence, there was no action. And it was really dragging this movie. If I would rate the entertainment in the first half, I would give it a modern loathe. In the third act is when this movie took off and became extremely entertaining. The White House scene was amazing. Diana slowly losing her powers because this artifact, if you wanted a wish, you lost something was valued to you. So it took something back from you, which I like that theme, that idea of you're wishing for something, but you know what? Sometimes you're going to have to get some pain. And that wish, there's consequences to some wishes. Diana wanted Steve Trevor, her love of her life. She really wanted him back. I really loved those two together. So in a way, I think the movie worked better with Steve Trevor in it than it without him. I really loved the Cheetah character. Before she became the Cheetah, there was a scene in the White House where the character is super strong at this point, and she's just like pushes Diana and Steve Trevor around. It just kind of reminded me a little bit of the White House scene in Superman 2 with Ursula. I really loved her character because I always admired strong women. I love the super strength. Something about a woman lifting a tank is very interesting to me, and it's one of my little quirks that I have, that I enjoy that for some reason. I love strong women. And the scene where she beats up the drunk guy who harassed her in the beginning of the movie and throws him into a van and kicks him a few times. I thought that was a pretty cool scene, and it was very violent. And then a scene where she pumps some iron and lifts this massive weight over her head and just drops it like it was nothing. You see it land and break because it was so heavy. I thought that was a really cool moment in the movie where she finds out that she has this massive strength now. The one thing that I was disappointed about, because the movie took place in 1984 and I thought they would have had a little more references. One of them, for instance, was Supergirl, because Supergirl came out in 1984. It was the first super female superhero movie. I thought the movie would have somehow, put a poster of it or had some homage to something from Supergirl. The scene where Helen Slater, Supergirl, comes out of the water and she picks up this rock and crushes it. I think that would have been a cool homage to the Supergirl movie. So why make it specifically 1984 if you're not going to reference Supergirl from 1984? It's not a big deal. It doesn't make the movie terrible. But anyways, I'll digress. Every time Steve Trevor was on the screen with Diana, I think the movie, entertainment-wise, rose massively. And all the action sequences, even though there was not a lot of action sequences, the ones that were in it were well executed. That one moment when she has to renounce her wish and lose Steve Trevor for the second time, and you see him tucked away in the corner, disappearing out of the camera's eye. A little bit emotional because I actually cried because I thought it was very well done. And you see the tears on her face. And as she started to run, and that energy in her face, and she starts to run, everyone's making fun of the running animation. It wasn't the best running sequence, but it wasn't terrible by any means. And she takes off into the air and learns to fly. I thought that was probably the most powerful moment, and really was an equal to the moment where she goes into no man's land and with her shield and fights the Germans. And in this movie, it was that moment where she has to renounce and give up the wish to give up her love of her life again, the second time. And this was hard, and I think that was so well done. Like, the emotion there was so unbelievable, and that really, in my opinion, boosted the entertainment element for sure. So I'm gonna give the entertainment in Wonder Woman 1984 a modern double like, not a love, a double like, because it wasn't perfect. There were a lot of moments that wasn't entertaining at all. They were very bad. Alright, so moving on to replay value. I think it's hard to say what the replay value is at this point. I really feel there's a lot to love about this movie. There's a lot in this movie that is enjoyable. There's a lot that was done well. There's a lot of elements about this movie, and I'll give it this, and I'll make a point comparing it to the first movie. The first movie is way better, don't get me wrong, but there was so much more depth of character in this movie. There was so much more emotion at times. No, let me correct. Wonder Woman had a lot of emotion. Lots. But there was a lot more complexity of emotion, I feel, in this movie compared to the first. And the villain was so much better, Maxwell Lord. This relationship with his son, the redemption of his character. I loved it. I don't know. I'm a sucker for redemptions of villains. Villains that are redeemable in a way. Because even these villains, they're flawed people. There's no person who's 100% bad or 100% good. There is a balance in all of us. Some have more bad than good, but at least at the end you see the humanity in this man, and it comes out with his love of his son. That was so amazing, and I want to see this movie again and just see those details that I missed because I was frustrated with the plot, frustrated with the script, how slow it was. I really feel I need to see it again. But the replay, I think there's a lot of replay in this movie because of the depthness. The first Wonder Woman was amazing, but it wasn't a very deep movie. It was very straightforward. It got to the point. It was very simplistic at times, and it was just a basic war movie. Wonder Woman comes in, she finds humanity, she finds mankind, and she wants to save it, and she wants to make it better, and she sees evil, and she wants to defeat Ares, and she feels that Ares is the reason why mankind is corrupted. So it was a very simple plot, very simple script, but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. Simple doesn't mean bad. This movie was anything but simple. This was the opposite of simple. There was so much complexity in this movie that it needs to be seen twice. I'm just going to probably fast forward the first part of the movie because it was just so slow, but the replay value was very strong, and I'm going to give the replay value a modern love. So I'm going to end it on a positive, a love, even though the movie is far from perfect, and it isn't a love on most categories for me. But what really shined through and made this movie enjoyable, and I'll give Patty Jenkins credit for that, was the love and energy and power of love, the power of emotion, the power of acceptance and understanding and sacrifice, and just loving someone so much. Love doesn't last forever, and the chemistry between the two with Gal Gadot and Chris Pine and those characters just made it so beautiful, and it still shined through even though this movie's getting so much hate and there's so many people loathing on this movie. I can understand why a lot of people are not seeing that goodness, that deep down goodness that this movie has. It's not a terrible movie. It's not a great movie at times, but it's not terrible. It has a soul. It has a heart. And any movie that has a soul and has a heart is going to have my respect. Call me sentimental. At the end of the movie, I still said to myself, you know what? With all its flaws and all its issues, the heart of the movie came through, and that allows the replay to come through to me. Alright guys, so that's my first modern review on a movie. I'm going to do a lot of movie reviews, mostly on the movies that I love. superhero movies, I love sci-fi, I love action. So you're going to see a lot of comic book movies on my channel. You're going to see a lot of action movies on my channel. Maybe even some kung fu movies because I love those. But of course, it's a retro channel. I'm not taking away any of my content. My main focus is going to be retro life reviews of my friend CK. I love those. Doing those reviews is my passion. I love it. It's my favorite content. And of course, RL Plays Retro, very close second. I love it too. The pizza stuff. I hope you guys love it. Lose a life, lose a slice. I'm enjoying it so much. And of course, I'm also going to have a new segment coming out very soon. It's going to be called Retro Life Adventures. It's about time, where we basically, me and CK are going to converse with our younger selves. So look forward to that. Lots of fun content, retro content, some modern content, all coming up on my channel. Anyways, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of Wonder Woman 1984. Wish you guys all the best in the new year, and I will have more modern reviews in the weeks, months, and years to come. Bye for now.